Okay. It says we're live, and I can see that my microphone is working. That means I can be heard, and I've got no idea what's happening the other end. Ash will be with us shortly, hopefully. And this time round, we're really hoping that I can hear Ash. That would be really good. All right. As I was saying from the first today, and I probably won't go through this because if you're in the show, you probably heard it. We got to the Feds stay put on the interest rate or the Fed rate, and you didn't get any further than that, basically. Then, of course, overnight we had the GDP figure come out on the Kiwi, and as per forecast, as per previous, 0.6%. Kiwi rallied a little bit on that news. I don't know if that's sustainable or not. We'll see. Since all of that happened early this morning for most of us, we've also had Philip Lowe speaking. I've got no idea what he said. Where was he speaking? Got no idea about that either. He was speaking of labour markets the spare capacity thing, committed for the economic development of Australia in the luncheon in Adelaide. Audience questions expected. Okay. Don't know what happened there. Importantly, of course, we had the monetary policy statement coming out of Japan. No rate change, naturally enough. We weren't expecting one. We've had a Swissy trade balance. We've had, naturally enough, the BAG press conference. Don't know what happened there. And we await retail sales coming out on the pound. Really peed off with the pound. Not so much the pound itself, but the trade that we took yesterday and cancelled before the news did exactly the right thing. Well, it didn't really. It didn't move too much, but there was a second opportunity to get into that long at pound Aussie that I was talking about yesterday. We'll have a look at that very shortly. I closed the order before the news, and there was a second bite at the cherry, which I didn't take. I waited for a better entry, and it didn't come. Nil desperandum. I'm still waiting on that. And of course, here we go again. We've got another announcement, interest rate again, of course, and the monetary policy summary coming out of London in the not too distant future. Well, when I say the not too distant future, that is actually now 4 hours away. So that is a little bit off. Nothing meant to change there. The rate's set to stay at 0.75%. And that's very much a unanimous decision as it is forecast, where nobody is tipping either, or nobody is either supposedly going to vote for either a rate change either way. So, what's going to happen today with the pound? Well, great question. I wish I were in this trade and free trading, I've got to say. But that said, I'm also wondering how this is going to be a positive statement. Uh, goodness only knows how that will work. But it is a news announcement. And if I were free trading this trade on pound Aussie, as I won't say I should be, but I could be, I'll put it that way. I would be a happy chappy at this point in time. We've also got Carney speaking way later in the day. I will probably be back out of bed at that point in time. And then tomorrow we've got some PMI news coming out, France, Germany, and retail sales on the CAD. So still a little bit to come this week. I think there was many opportunities confronting or fronting us today. And I'm pleased to say that yesterday, I know I flagged this in all of the shows yesterday, New Zealand dollar CAD, I thought was a very good candidate for a sell. And I actually did trade this. I didn't wait for an entry here. I forced my way in because I could just see this. And I thought, look, I don't see any way this is going back through the weekly pivot. So I placed my order underneath this bar here. A little bit weird in terms of entry, but paid off. Well, when I say paid off, the good old take profit one, which was here, didn't get triggered. Not happy with that, because it went well through it and should have triggered. I guess no, I won't even bother to go there as to what the broker would say about that. But there was no TP1, although it should have been taken at that point. I await that still, and I still think this is a pretty decent order to have in the market, the short against the CAD at the moment, because I think the CAD is, as I said, one of the strongest currencies on the board, and rightly so, because all the news coming out of Canada, economy wise, is very, very positive. So I'm happy to hold that position. In fact, I wish I'd had a few more against the CAD short. That would have been pretty good. Yeah, mates. I can't hear you. That's right. I wonder if there's anyone else in the room who would tell me if they can hear you. Let me see. I don't know that I've actually got the option to get into this right now. It's not showing. Oh yeah, there we go. Let me see if there is anybody in the room. If there is, I will ask them to tell me if they can hear you, Ash. So have a little chit chat. And I think the only one in the room is me. But if anybody is in the room and can hear Ash, maybe I can hear something. But it's not your voice. It's like a bad connection or something. Yeah, I can hear like news coming through. I can hear you typing. Why can't I hear you talking if I can hear you typing?
You can hear me typing.
Now I can hear you talking.
You can hear me.
Well, I could for a second, and then you dropped out. Have you got
Can you hear me talking now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, yep.
You can hear me talking now.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just try something here.
If you got a leg off a microphone or something.
How's that? Is that better?
That's good, mate. That's awesome.
Oh, can you hear this in the background?
Can't hear anything in the background.
Okay, fine. Okay, so for some reason,
that was fun.
yeah. So it's changed to audio settings are temporary and applied to this meeting only. I went from voice and I changed it to studio and it worked.
Of course. You
I
must be a
mean,
studio, not a voice.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I don't know, mate. I don't know. Anyway, so you are talking about some trades you had on, right? The CAD.
Yeah, Kiwi CAD. Some others I wish I had on against CAD,
Yeah.
because, as I said, I think the CAD is in a very strong position right now, due to all the good news it's had, and everything else pretty much has had bad news. Oil's rallying, and why wouldn't the CAD rally with it? It's just, for me, a very strong position to be taking.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the EA didn't take my first profit, which is a pain in the rectum of
Oh,
things.
does that mean you're back down again?
Well, I'm still in profit, but I should be I should be free trading, basically. Hello, we've got a visitor.
Sorry, mate. I've just had
That's
a
all right. Don't be
visitor.
sorry. Why would you be sorry?
Hold on, you want me to hear just yet? Hold on.
Is it school holiday? Is it daycare holidays? Hello, sweetheart. How are you?
9.
Is your 9? You're not 9.
Sorry, mate. I'm back now. It's
That's all right.
I've been teaching her how to trade. I keep saying right. There's a red team and there's a green team, and at the minute, Daddy's back in the red team, and unfortunately, the green team are winning.
There you go, mate. You're
Oh,
never too young to learn. That's a fact.
no, I agree, mate. I agree. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you up. So you were looking at the CAD and with oil. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's interesting with oil, isn't it? Because oil is moving in it's moving back to the upside, isn't it? Because of the well, in fact, you know what? It was twofold. It was something to do with the OPEC meeting. Hold on one second, mate. Sweetheart, oh, come that way, sweet. Yeah, something to the OPEC meeting, and also the inventories from the United States as well. Apparently,
Yeah, saw that.
were dipped down as well, weren't they? So I think that's why oil started to move to the upside.
Yes, and as I say, the data on the CAD has been positive for a few weeks, so I see absolutely no reason why you'd want to be trading against the CAD at the moment. The only bad part, I suppose, about that is that I didn't trade the euro or the Aussie or something else.
Mad, wasn't it? What a move on the euro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely crazy. I had the friend I know that trades the euro was in it last night, and yeah, just it was quite. Did you listen to the speech? I was going to message you actually to see whether you were party to it or not.
This is Draghi's or
no for Powell's.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Very interesting, really. I thought it was quite similar in some respects to Draghi's, where the actions didn't really match the words in some respects. You know, that they kind of he's left rates on hold, and it was just it's almost like a bit of horseplay where they, you know, he sort of says interest rates are left on hold, but if anything changes, we will change. And I don't really see why that would boost the market, but I just, you know, it's completely flat pretty much after it. You know, the market just didn't move off the back of it, and I was anticipating a rate hold and a market tank, effectively, or at least a weakening, but it just didn't materialize.
No, nothing happened, and for that reason, the breakout trade didn't get triggered, of course.
Right, interesting. Yeah. You put that one on, did you?
Look, it was in a perfect position to take it at the time, absolutely perfect. But as soon as it came out, nothing happened. So you just take it straight off when that happens. And so we're kind of back where we started on at the beginning of the week, really. Pretty much exactly where we started. Oh no, we tanked a bit on Friday, didn't we? That's right. But Friday, we're back where we were on Friday, and back at the top of this this channel that I've got descending here, and that's a good place. I'm quite happy with that. If I'm at all going to pick up a short, it's probably from this area here, and that's pretty cool. So I'm happy with that. I don't see why the euro.
Sorry, mate. What currency is that?
That's euro dollar 4-hour chart.
Oh, really? Okay, so you're looking for shorts here.
Yep. Still.
Yep. Okay.
But look, that could change, but at the moment, that's very much a case of we have got a range through here that I've taken off my chart for some reason. I'll put it back on, so it's much easier to explain, I suppose, when I've got it as to what I'm looking for. Kind of goes through there somewhere-ish. We can probably pick up those lows as well. So now that we're back inside this range, well, maybe we're not back inside this range now, but if we were to stay inside this range and get a reversal situation here, we've still got this double top off this big trend line, off the top of this channel. So it's still a false break of the top of the channel. And until that changes, then I'm still tipping that we're going to come down and test these lows. But as I say, if these levels go, then that changes very quickly, of course.
It's interesting, isn't it, mate? I mean, you know, the question for me is, why does the euro rally so significantly? Why does anything rally so significantly against the dollar off the back of a rate hold, which in the end was anticipated, but actually, you know, in the initial phase, things were going in the opposite direction, you know, and then we get the rate hold. You know, why are things rallying so significantly?
Well, it's even worse than that, because if you look at these headlines, well, this one here from CNBC, Fed indicates it will cut rates, but not until 2020.
Yeah.
Hello. You know,
Yeah.
that's totally against what has been said in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And why on earth wouldn't the greenback rally on that news? I mean, that's come from a
Yes.
reliable source. You know? So
Yes.
whatever they've read into the statement, and I must confess, I wanted to read this before the show, but I've just been so flat out, haven't been able to do so. So I
What
haven't really
time
got
is
a
it?
take on
When,
it myself.
in Australia, when it was 7
4
o'clock,
4 a.m.
it was 4 a.m. So you know, pretty much an impossibility to be up and listening to that announcement. I mean, it's just not healthy, is it?
Well, had I not gone to bed at 1, then I might have thought about it. But you know,
Right. Yeah.
3 hours
Yeah.
sleep just a bit too tough.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
done that for many years. I did that when I was first trading, and this is just ridiculous. Go to bed, you fool.
Yeah. I think if you've got maybe something in the market, then it's, you know, it's a completely different matter, isn't it? But you know, I was talking yesterday to my girlfriend about I'm going to the Caribbean in about 3 weeks for a bit of a break, and she said she was asking me, "Are you gonna, you know, you're gonna trade when you're out there?" And I said, "Well, probably not. I mean, you know, if I've got some positions in, which is going to be quite tough to time actually, but if I've got some positions in the market, then I might well monitor stuff when I'm out there. But it's 3 a.m. You know, there right now. You know, well it's 8 a.m. here when the market opens. It's 3 a.m. there, and I don't really want to be up stupidly late and then destroying the next day.
Yeah, that's right. If you're having a break, then have a bloody break, for goodness sake.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
quite right.
I'm a
Yeah,
little bit confused. I've got to say at this point in time. I will read the statement when I get a chance, but this guy, whoever wrote this, is not reading anything negative into the dollar that I can see
yeah,
anyway. To me,
yeah,
that should be a greenback rally, not a crash. And therefore, yes,
yeah.
why on earth is the Aussie rallying? Why is the euro rallying?
And the pound and the
Why is
gold.
the
I mean,
pound
they're just kind of
rallying?
like they're just rock and rolling right now.
Mm. So yeah, I don't get it, mate. I just
Yeah,
don't get it. But the stronger the
absolutely
pound
flying.
goes,
I mean, it's, you know, effectively what Jerome Powell said was that he needs more information before making a decision on cutting rates. You know, and I think one of those things that he needs to see is what's going to happen with this trade war. And it's almost like no matter what happens with the trade war, investors will be the winner, because if the trade war ends badly, then Jerome Powell will lower interest rates, and if it ends well, then trade is back on the table anyway. So I don't really see what's going to bring, you know, specifically the stock market. I don't know what could bring it to its knees when you basically have an accommodative central bank policy alongside a negotiation which, no matter how it's going to turn out, is going to be good.
mate, beyond me. Honestly, I just get totally. The more I think about it, the more confusing it becomes.
Yeah,
So I think I'll just leave it alone and go back to technicals and work out what's going on in the charts. I think
yeah,
it's always where I finish up anyway, so I might as well just get there
yeah.
before I completely blow my head and go, well, this doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense. You want to hear the bad luck story of the day?
Oh, I always look forward to a bad luck story.
Well, it's not so much bad luck; it's probably bad management. You'll recall late in the show yesterday, I cancelled the order on pound Aussie long.
Oh gosh, mate. Yeah, I was watching that for you. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, and that was
You
okay.
said monthly
The
pivot.
news, yeah, the news didn't do too much, right? So I thought, well, there's a good chance that this is going to turn into a false break, and this is exactly how it looked. And that bloody trade would have been triggered, you know, just minutes before the news, which is always a terrible place to
Yeah,
be. So I was quite happy at that point. And then when the news came out, it didn't do anything. Just stayed in this vicinity, and I thought, beautiful. We'll get a retest here on the 4-hour chart, and I'll go long. Perfect. I was watching the hourly chart, and
We're talking about CPI news, right?
Yep, this is the
Yep.
CPI news here. And this is the same reaction to the CPI news. Came back to almost retest this trade line. And I thought, oh, look, this is the go. I've got to trade here. But no, I'll wait for the 4-hour chart. It's only an hour away, and we might get this pivot retest. No, incorrect. Take the hourly trade and then double up if you get the 4-hour, which is what I should have done. And I didn't.
Ah, okay.
TP1 here, TP2 here.
So really, your target bar, your master candle, if you like, was the
This one.
the shooting star. Yeah.
Yep. So that had you, and I know some of the guys hung on to that trade, so that's great. 24 pips risk for 105 pips already,
Oh.
And I think this has got further to go, and I missed it. Not happy, Jan.
Do you know the worst thing about it is that you called it?
Well, I called it twice. I was on my strategy leader coaching group because I talked to them via Skype, and I said, look, this is set up now on the hourly. And I said, as soon as the news come out, I'm going to watch this like a hawk because I'm so keen on this going long.
Yeah.
And when the hourly candle printed, I sent out a message saying that, look, there's absolutely a trade here, but I'm going to wait for the 4-hour chart. So I don't know if anybody took it, but the guys who were in the morning show wouldn't have got that information anyway, wouldn't have even known that I cancelled the order. So they're cool. They're past TP.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're cool. I'm not seething, but it's you wait for these things that are so obvious, and then they come and you miss them, and you fuck them.
It is interesting because we've got, and I know everybody kind of thought I was mad the other day when I was saying that the Bank of England were quite hawkish, but they actually were. I mean, the data points that came out subsequently after their hawkish rhetoric was, they were a bit weak. GDP wasn't
last week were really the weak numbers. That was last week, and
that's
they
exactly
were on the Monday.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So last week the numbers were shocking, but actually before that they weren't. The first quarter. Yeah, the first quarter were quite good, and there was some actually fairly hawkish rhetoric coming out from some of the members of the Bank of England, and I think that was the key actually, because they were fairly hawkish. Then they had some bad numbers, but central banks don't make decisions off one set of numbers. It's a slew of numbers, sort of like 3 to 6 months. So they probably were looking at the numbers in the first quarter, and then the numbers like in the last quarter, and thinking, okay, well maybe we need to be a bit more balanced here. But I don't think that they're going to be quite the same as some of the other central banks, where they're looking to lower interest rates. And it might be that that we don't get an interest rate rise this time, very unlikely. But we might actually get some further rhetoric, which could suggest that Mark Carney is looking at seeing whether the interest rate could start moving to the upside.
Mate, it can't keep going down forever, and even the numbers that we're talking about, they can't keep going down forever. Otherwise, the whole system collapses.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm a little bit upset on that basis that I actually didn't get in where I wanted to get in. But look, at the end of the day, I think there's plenty more opportunity, in particular on pound Aussie, the one that I did call, because if I look at this chart, and the whole reason I took this trade was on technicals, because as soon as I see a range beginning and I see a double bottom followed by a higher low, of course I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that every time. That's exactly what I trade. So you've just got to find an entry there, and the entry was pretty obvious on the 4-hour chart. Now, what I'm doing now on this candle here, what I'm doing now is waiting for another opportunity, because I think this has got a long way to go.
Well, we've
And
got
as soon as it breaks the monthly pivot, we're on the way up here. And
yeah, and it's again this sort of interests me because of the FTSE. What does that do to the FTSE? The stock market really has rallied off the back of the world stock market, I should say, has rallied off the back of starting with Mario Draghi's statement and then followed by the Fed statement. So we're kind of looking for some upsides in stocks, but the FTSE's a bit muted actually this morning so far. And
how are you going with that?
well, do you know,
you're out of everything, or are you still short?
I'm still in, but I actually took a hedge. I can show you what I'm looking at today. I took a hedge last night because, and I have to say that the hedge is starting to look like it may well come off. I'll just put my levels up here. Yeah, so I've got the hedge on just here, but it may well come off because I see a little bit of weakness. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm looking for the hedge to come off longer term, but it may well be that I take the hedge off here because I think there might be lower prices to come here, and I have to consider what is currently driving the market, and I'm looking kind of at my stocks here, only 52% in positive territory. They started a lot better than that, so there's a little bit of weakness out there actually. Now, if we bring in the news and data, then we know that there's an announcement today, not till midday. Retail sales coming in at 9:30, and the way it's looking right now, the stock market looks like it's selling into the news rather than buying up into the news. So I might well take the hedge off and just have a look to see whether there's a different opportunity to enter this market rather than getting in here. I don't see this as very positive at all. In actual fact, I'm just going to wait for the top of the 5 minutes chart here, because if this 5 minute chart effectively breaks this area here, I think I might well take my trade down, because this isn't indicative of strong price action to the upside, and I might well get a hedge in a slightly better area, but it's struggling. It's struggling to push higher. When we kind of got the Asian session actually being positive, the Asian markets did pretty well today. The S&P continues to kind of rally off the back of Jerome Powell's comments, and now we have a FTSE 100 which is struggling, and I can only suggest that that's probably down to the data releases. So let's see how this reacts, but I think a close beneath this level, I'll probably take the hedge down and just see if I can get a slightly better price. The other way I could play it is leave the hedge in the market and effectively look at it as a kind of a trade from scratch, and if the market goes up, almost start a new kind of a new tranche of trades to the upside, or if the market goes down, just start a new tranche of trades to the downside, and take the hedge off at a later time. So I've kind of got two options here, but I'll probably just take the hedge down, I think, rather than hanging on here, because it looks a little bit weak to me, mate. It doesn't look like it's going to go too much higher. But what could happen is that there may be no trend at all, and we might just kind of like mess about here, which we look to have been doing for the first 25 minutes of the session today.
So if the MPC do carry through with that bullish attitude or hawkish attitude, how will that affect you?
If they are hawkish, then I would suggest that the pound would probably rally, and the FTSE 100 will potentially weaken.
Yeah.
And really, what's the other question is what's next? Because what we do have, in actual fact, what I will do is make this hedge absolutely safe. There's no real reason to kind of keep that hedge on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my stops to break even on that, because if that does come down, I suppose it might be worth just doing that and taking the hit on it. If I get a chance to take it off just before and just squeeze a bit of profit, I will. But I'm under the daily pivot, and I think it would suggest to me that if we come under this daily pivot, we're probably coming out. So so I'm just going to make that that hedge absolutely safe, just in case I walk away from this and miss the opportunity. So I'm going to do it on both accounts here. Modify 415. There we go, mate. That's all done. So I've got those at break even.
Okie dokie.
So we look at that as protection. So yeah, so if the Bank of England decide, let's say that we get a decent retail sales number that comes out for number one, then that would suggest that that the Bank of England, it's not that they're going to change their decision of what interest rates what will happen to interest rates in a meeting, which is a matter of 2.5 hours away from the retail sales number, but it will add further pressure. And because they've had this hawkish tone, it's not like it's come out of nowhere. Yes, they've changed tact a little bit, since the data after that, they did change tack a little bit. But since they've had this hawkish tone, there is a chance that that the market does perceive that to be strong for the pound, good for the pound, and a strong pound, if it's really extreme in its movement, does tend to mean weaker FTSE 100s.
Yep.
Not always, obviously.
No.
It depends what's driving, but I would suggest on a shorter term at least, we could well get some fluctuations to the downside. I suppose what may well happen, and I think in the bigger picture, like that's dealing with today's announcement. But if we deal with the bigger picture, then oh gosh, never seen that before. That's an interesting looking setup. I don't know who's they. Bollinger Band, that is. With the bigger picture now, this gap doesn't really exist in this market. What we have is a high which is probably somewhere around about this level, maybe slightly higher. So if there was maybe this level here, we could probably put it up to. But so let's say somewhere around here, probably easier to see it on a weekly chart on a trend line instead. So let's just imagine that this price movement didn't happen, because when those futures expired, we ended up repricing everything. So with the repricing, I think the target here is somewhere near these numbers up here, somewhere near this level up here, around about 7,400. I'd be looking for a target. We're currently at 7,362. So the bigger picture for me is that if we can get up to this point just before G20, there may well be some profit taking or some tightening up with some stops because of the potential for a trade negotiation to either break down and be bad for markets, or break down and be good for markets because of the speculation on the Fed, or they do really well and again have the same potential impact. I would suspect if they do really well, then we're probably staying exactly where we are. It's probably going to be good for markets. But yeah, that's the bigger picture. I think the bigger picture is that that we have a potential another drive to the highs. That's what I'm really looking at here. Can we drive the highs one more time, and then see if there's any driver that takes us back down again? I just don't know what it is, mate. That's the thing. I don't know what's going to bring us down. I'm still looking for the market to come down, because when I look at this chart, I see move down, swing back up to test the level of support, move down, swing back up, and I suppose this was the previous level of support, come down again, swing there, come down again, and then bang, 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 and this is the swing. So I don't know where I just look at this and think, well, that's a really over exuberant move to the upside without a real test of this level here and this level here. Now that might just be complete hope that I'm relying on, which is why I don't like to rely on hope, which is why I've put protection in place with the hedge. But But I don't know, I don't know. I don't. It's not often that you see a market that doesn't test levels, doesn't test where it's come from. So I think that we need to be a little bit cautious in this area here.
Okay, I've got new candles. Should I take a look around the place?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, let's have a look.
Rightio. So what I'm about to discover, I'm sure, is pretty much counterintuitive. And I'm looking at the Aussie at the moment. Why is the Aussie rallying? No idea. Perhaps it's just a matter of people are taking some profits on all of this, I guess. It may not be, maybe something else here at foot, but this is looking very much like a higher low. This is looking very much like a place that will be looking for a retracement on this move, maybe even back to the daily pivot area. I just can't get interested in this long yet. Of course, I've got my stops above here, so it's in my best interest for this not to go long, but it's not the end of the world if it does, because we've banked twice on this and we're below entry, so all is well. I would have thought we'd get much more out of this, though, to be fair, and that's still potentially the case. And again, when I logistically look at this, and I think, okay, the headline that I read is the Fed's not going to cut rates till 2020, and the Aussie is as early as 2 weeks' time. I just wonder why I'm seeing this rally. Maybe it's, as I say, people taking profit. I don't know, but I can't get bullish. I'll put it that way. And so even if I were to see a reversal bar here, I wouldn't be thinking retracement. I'd be thinking continuation of this sort of thing. It's still the most dominant part of the chart. Big double top here. A very swift move, and when the market does move that quickly, it's not unusual to see a retracement, to be fair. There's probably Fibo fans that'd have a look at that as well. Why don't I have a look at that? Has it reached the retracement point? Yeah, it has. Bang on 38.2, where we currently are. So, it's not beyond the realms of possibility for me to scale back into this. It'll depend on what I see, of course. That's a 4-hour chart. Let's take a look at the 30-minute, which is where we're supposed to be looking at present. And what I see is a potential false break already of this. It's only minute, and it's very much a 30-minute intraday time frame, but there is potential for this to become a false break. It's not a perfect scenario, and it would be 10 times better if we had that double or tweezer top or double top sitting on that weekly pivot. That would make it really, really strong for a trade short. It's not quite there for me, and I will wait on that, but my bias is definitely short. So we'll see how that goes. Pound Aussie, look, hang on. Don't go yet, please. Hang around. I want some bad retail sales news. Is that what's next on the pound? Retail sales, I think it is.
Yeah. Would you want those just so you can see if we can get an entry into it long?
Yeah, I want it down here somewhere. That would be pretty cool. Let me see. What have I got at my disposal? Not a great deal. Maybe that there. That'd be pretty cool. If this news can drive us down to here, hit the daily pivot, then get back above this trade line and retest it, bingo. That would be my entry for sure. Okay, it's small change, given that I should have been in here. Some 45 odd pips, but who cares? It doesn't matter. I'm really keen on this long, really keen. And if I can find a way in here, there's a very handsome target. Say the risk on this becomes 30 or 40 pips, even it's 10 to 1 plus. It's 12 to 1 maybe by the time you get up here. It's big reward on offer here. So that's why I'm really, really keen. My hope is that there's some retracement there's some way I can get into this. Even if we break the monthly pivot, then come back to test it, I'm still in. I can still get a decent reward out of this. But
and it absolutely could do it, couldn't it? Because if the rest of the well, certainly the two that are in focus this week, the euro and the dollar, are talking about weakening, then it's not going to take too much of a positive tone to get investors interested in the pound, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, if you have a look at the charts right now, they're already interested. If you have a look at the pound's just shot back into this range as well.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that one too.
Yeah.
Any retracement here gets me in. Pound yen, it's now looking at breaking this resistance area. It's got to take on weekly pivot as well, but I don't think these levels are going to matter. If they get a sniff here, they'll drive this. They really will drive this.
Yeah.
Such is the case, when pound buyers get a sniff, same with euro, if they get a sniff, they just hook in and away they go. There's no holding back. And you can see this trend line has broken. The daily situation is very much similar. We're struggling to get through it, yes, and we're at the weekly pivot, yes. But what I'd love to see is a break of the daily pivot here, the weekly pivot here, then a pullback to retest it. Gee whiz, I reckon that'd be a good strong signal to get long here. We've got the hammer in place already. Everything's ready to go here for the pound. It just needs a little bit of assistance. I don't know why I'm there. So that's the story on the pound. We're back to checking 30-minute charts, aren't we? I get carried away when I get a little bit interested in the currency. So get back down here, drive us down here, so we can get an entry. That's what we're looking for on pound. Now the euro is on a bit of a rantan as well, and again, somewhat bemusing to me. I know there are a lot of bulls around on the euro. It's quite a popular scenario to be wanting to trade the euro long. I just don't see that yet. If I go to the bigger picture, okay, I can see the double bottom. I don't see anything else though, really.
I mean, isn't that also that the yesterday's bear bar, wasn't that effectively a test of where the euro had come from, and kind of giving us the idea that would be a good place
to go long.
Yeah,
there's a good place to go long, but only to here, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't want to be still at risk trading through these areas. That's not going to stop it, of course, but there's strong resistance here, there's strong resistance here, and there's strong resistance here. I'd want to be taking profit somewhere here, that's for sure, of some kind. But I'm still a bear, so who am I to say take profit if you're going long? Where does this change for me? Well, I suppose if I do look at this chart, it's a bit different. The daily chart's a bit different to the weekly, because really we've got a strong base, and you can see that on the weekly as well, the base. But this has now been rejected 3 times, went to resistance, came back to support, and now we're back at resistance. So I can totally see that if this level goes, then different story. But until that level goes, we're still underneath this line here, and to me that's significant. So I'll be looking for another pullback at some stage on the euro. Does that get me interested at the moment, I guess, is the question, and the answer is an absolute and unequivocal no, because this is an NLNS short, NLNS situation for me. No long, no short, because I can't go long here. 2 reasons. I'm already at daily resistance number 2, and I've got an untested daily pivot below me. End of story. You just don't go long there in my strategy. Could I trade it short? Well, yes, I could, but what do I just guess here? Do I toss a coin and say, okay, 112.88 is the level, let's go? No, I can't do that. I've got to find a reason, and at this point, the only reason that I could possibly find would be if we hit this trend line here, and then look for something that makes sense. But at the moment, nothing makes sense, and this looks to be a very strong cross right now, I'd have to say. Kiwi CAD is just not playing my game either. I expected this would be way back down here by now, but instead I see a double bottom and a higher low. I don't get that at all. Okay, I'm still well in profit. I'm not as far in profit or as safe as I would like to be. I'm still at risk on this trade, which concerns me somewhat because this noise in here, and I know why, because we had Kiwi News out this morning, which, whilst it wasn't a beat, it wasn't a miss either. And I guess that forecast number, which you can see here, drove the market to this level, and that's where it stayed ever since. Why will it rally is my question. Why is the Aussie rallying? Why is the euro rallying? What the hell is going on? Why am I not understanding? And that concerns me, because if I'm wrong here, then this thing's going to take off like the rest of them. So yeah, I don't know, mate. I really don't know. I'm a little bit, but the one thing that really keeps me, or that sobers my thought process here, is the CAD, because the CAD should be strong, should be the strongest currency here, and for that reason, I'm okay. I'm just going to hang on to this and back my judgment, and watch this disappear down to 85 cents or something. One hopes. So in terms of trading this at the moment, no, there's nothing to do here except watch and wait, because you can see that the daily pivot's the flavour of the day. Euro pound. Now, wow, I've been waiting and waiting on this one as well, and it just won't set up. We can see, actually, I'll go to the 4-hour chart. It's easy to see. We can see why I'd get interested in trading this short, but we can't see, well, I can't see how I can find an entry. Maybe there was the opportunity, but trading straight into an untested weekly pivot without profit and the back of the trade line without profit, no, that wasn't a wise entry for me. It may be the classic entry, there's no question about that, but I've got to wait for a pullback here of some sort, at least to the weekly pivot, but maybe even back as far as here before I can get interested in trading the short. Do I want to trade it long? Look, I don't see any way I can. It's just not setting up there for me. So I want it to get to here at least, and I'll look for a short, but no, not right now. Aussie yen. Look, I want to trade anything short against the yen, that anything major against the yen short today when I looked at the charts. But they've already done what I anticipated they would do, and to get a repeat dose of that now is something I struggle with. If I missed it, I missed it, and I need to wait now for something better, and the something better comes from either a daily pivot test and finding confluence with something, or I get back up to here and then get back underneath here, retest, and away we go. But there's a lot of work to do there at the moment. So no, this one's probably the best of them all in terms of being able to trade it shortly. And what I need to see here is price break this level, find the resistance area in here, touch the weekly pivot to be good, get back underneath here, underneath the daily pivot, underneath the support trade line, and retest the whole bloody lot if you like. And that's my key to, or my trigger to go short. And short's the way I want to go here, despite the fact that I can see it's a bit offset, but you can see a potential left shoulder here, head and right shoulder. Bit of an ugly type of neckline, I suppose. It's through here, but it's struggling to get through there, isn't it? Really is struggling to get through there. So, yeah, look, I'm still short bias this, and if it does set up as I've described, I will trade it. I was exactly the same on euro yen, and exactly the same scenario. It took off short without me early, and now it's wiped that out completely as the euro strengthens for whatever reason. I also see bullish engulfing bar here, a double bottom. And this now looks a bullish conveyance to me. To trade that long wouldn't take much either. Because if I look at the hourly chart, I've got a break of this trend line. I know this is the 4-hour one, but it's also going to be an hourly one. I've got a break of this trend line. I've got consolidation. I've got a re-entry above it. A retest of the daily pivot here is now a foregone conclusion that I have to go long. I think I can still do that, although I'm trading into this. Well, no, I can't. When I look at that, there's no way I can go long at that point. I'd have to wait for price to get back down to here or break this level, then come back, and I could end up here somewhere. But that's going to be too big a candle. So it's not an easy process from now. This morning, everything looked as rosy, but everything happened well before it was meant to, as far as I'm concerned. And now everything's gone back the other way. So it's a bit crazy. And we'll just have to wait and wait for our chances. Pound US dollar I've already spoken about. I'm happy with what I'm seeing. If on the 30-minute hourly or 4-hourly charts I get a pull back to here, and I know that's a big ask in a short period of time, that's where I'll be looking for longs. I don't really want to go without a daily pivot test, but experience tells me that once a reversal takes place, if this is to be that, then the daily pivot doesn't matter jack. If it gets a wriggle on, which is, as I said before, if the pound buyers and the euro buyers get a sniff here, it looks like they may have. They won't stop because the daily pivot hasn't been tested. I can assure you, they'll just keep piling into this. So my counsel on this now would be to buy the dips until this proves itself not a reversal. And when that happens is probably when it hits the monthly pivot, breaks this level here and can't get through. But as soon as it does get through here, look out, because this will just go. And a lot of this is going to be dependent on what happens in the next few hours, in particular with the statement and press conference.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's always about the press conference in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, I mean, I think that was the reason that, you know, the news came out from the Fed yesterday, and then all of a sudden it just froze as people waited for a press conference and further indication of what was going to happen in the future, and it was really the press conference that drove the stocks back to the upside rather than to the downside, which you'd kind of expect with a hold in rates.
Yeah, look, and I know it's, you know, a little bit out there to say this, but if we get a dip in the pound on this news that's coming up in, what, 40 minutes from now?
40 minutes, yeah.
Oh, gee whiz, I just want to pick my cross. And I think, I don't know which one, probably pound Aussie is still the one. You know, if we get a
Yeah, you
dip
still like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still the one. Any dip
Well,
here really gets me interested.
that is one currency that has said that it's going to be lowering interest rates, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. That's, and the technical setup is perfect. Oh, I just need it to give me an entry. That's all, and that's why I'm so anxious about the getting out of the order yesterday and not being able to get back into it, or refusing to get back into it. To be fair, I can only kick my own self or myself in the backside because I had the opportunity and didn't take it.
Yeah.
But there's always another one.
There's always another one, mate. Yeah, and I think there was so many things that were on the way that it kind of made the decision that little bit harder, didn't it?
Yeah, well, what made it hard was my own conservative nature, really. A major thing for me is always capital protection.
Yeah.
And when I see this scenario, I absolutely see that this is going long, but there's always the not yet factor, and the not yet factor comes from a retest of the weekly pivot. That's what I was waiting for. And had I seen that on, I would have even drilled down to a 15-minute chart if I saw that, just to get in. But I didn't see it. So, and what I ignored really was the retest of the trade line. That's why these trade lines are so important. It doesn't have to retest the weekly pivot if it retests this line here. And that's I have to take that on board and say, well, okay, you're a dickhead. You should have recognised that, and at least, as I said, put a let's say 0.25% on here, and if it got down to there, then double up. It's pretty much.
Was there any part of you that was looking at that direction because of news and data that you were kind of that helped form your decision? Or was it purely technical? I mean, was there any kind of like idea of sentiment there?
I think there was a combination of just about everything. I saw the number come out on the pound, and that was a good number.
Yeah,
so it certainly wasn't a bad number. I had the bias there in the first place. I had a technical setup. What else do you need? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, and I think that's the interesting factor of it, isn't it? That if you've got a reason to start with, then the technical setup actually can be a little bit weaker in some respects. I.e., you can maybe go down to a time frame or two to kind of get what you need.
Yes, and I didn't do that, but
Yeah, well, you called it, mate. You called it. So at least there's what you are doing is working. That's always a positive, I think, to take from any of these situations. Obviously, we've got to pull the trigger in the end, but I think you've done that enough times to know that that's not really an issue. In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, look, that's what I said to my my strategy leaders on my coaching group. It doesn't matter if you.
Lost you. Just lost you at an important moment. Okay, we've lost Jeff. No big deal. We are at the end of the show anyway. I'm looking to see whether the FTSE 100 will actually go short here. We've still got Jeff's charts, but I'm looking to see whether the FTSE 100 goes short here. We've just broken through this trend line, hanging on to the daily pivot, but I'm with Jeff. I think that the data will probably point the pound to the upside. So just looking to see whether we get some weakness in the market, maybe back down to this level here. I've taken my hedge now down, and I'm just looking for just a little bit of downside into this area here to see whether there's some potential profit there.
Well, I hope we get some gilt-edge setups, mate, and we're able to trade what we're thinking and what we're really keen to do, and finish the week on a very high note. Nice.
Yes, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm looking for a little bit of weakness in the FTSE 100. I've taken my hedge down. I didn't let it hit the stop. I took it down with a minimal profit, not much, but a minimal profit. And I'm actually looking to see whether there's a bit more downside here rather than upside. So I think the FTSE 100 could retest these levels, and that's always a bonus because it means that I can get another hedge on down here. And rather than worrying about leaving a hedge running, it just gives me a slightly better entry. Are you still there, mate?
I'm here. I've got no idea.
Oh, sorry. Just lost your visuals. Okay, mate. Anyway, yes, I will see you next week. Have a great weekend.
All right, bud, and everyone else, have a good weekend. Hopefully, you can go catch some fish, or lay on the beach, or do something if you're in the northern hemisphere, and stay warm if you're in the south like me. Catch you next week.
There might be a new way to do this. I've just noticed on YouTube a little link that's given me a possible different way to stream. So I'll let you know on that if I discover anything.
Gee, that'd be a bugger if it worked.
Getting used to this now, aren't we?
Have a good one, mate. See you later.
All right, buddy. You too. See you later.